opponent claims that criminal penalties are deterrent and ultimately prevent new drug users from development. This is simply not true. As reported by Science Daily on July 1st, 2008, a survey of 17 countries has found that despite its punitive drug policies, the United States has the highest levels of illegal cocaine and cannabis use. Obviously, there are other factors at play, not just the criminal or not just the legislative environment or the potential penalties. My opponent also claims that flooding of treatment centers will occur if more drug users are put into treatment rather than prison. And in addition to that, these treatment centers are inadequately staffed and unregulated. Those are precisely the problems that we aim to solve by diverting resources from the imprisonment of drug users to the treatment of drug users. In other words, we find that treatment is cost effective and the money's there if we were to divert our attention from imprisonment. An analysis by the Rand Corporation found that each cocaine-controlled dollar used for treatment generates a societal cost savings of $7.48 compared to savings of only 52 cents for every dollar used for domestic law enforcement. In other words, treatment is absolutely viable. We just don't put any money into it currently. My opponent also claims that the crime rate will increase if drugs are decriminalized. Again, this is not true. Evaluated as a crime control measure alone, providing drug treatment for criminally active addicts is strikingly cost effective and reduces criminal activity by about 2/3 at about 10% of the cost of a prison cell. Another claim that my opponent makes is essentially that decriminalization has no teeth, that we no longer are able to impose penalties for individuals who won't comply or are not improving. And I'll pull an example from Portugal to show that a decriminalization approach can have consequences and be enforceable. This is, let's see, because drug possession is being decriminalized, this is in Portugal. When a police officer in Portugal encounters a person under the quantity limit, she is not permitted to make an arrest. Instead, she issues a citation for possession of drugs to appear before what the law calls a dissuasion panel. Dissuasion panels are organized to be as non-adversarial in nature as possible. They are made up of 3 members, typically 2 people from the medical or social services fields and 1 attorney. The panel meets with individuals who appear before them in order to assess their treatment needs and assist them in addressing any abuse or addiction problems. Panels can take a range of action, including issuing a warning to the offender, requiring the offender to check in with the panel at specified times, ordering the offender to enter into a treatment program, and even banning the offender from visiting certain places or associating with certain people. Another point my opponent brings up is that certain jobs would be negatively affected by the employment of drug users. And I'll just make an analogy here. You can't be a fighter pilot if you're colorblind. It's not illegal to be colorblind. And just because drugs would be decriminalized doesn't mean that in certain critical occupations that the limits on drug use cannot still be imposed. Another